Hello, welcome to the Quail Hill Cottage, and today I'm going to be talking all things homeschooling curriculum. So, as you can gather from that first sentence, I am pro curriculum. So, I use curriculums in my homeschool. I need help just knowing what each child needs to know at certain ages. I'm not an expert in math and reading and all those things, so I love to let the experts help me educate my child. So I find the curriculum helps me as a busy mom of a large family keep each child on track. Now, not every curriculum means I'm using a textbook or there are these long, laborious lessons. All it means is that someone else who has studied this and is more of an expert in it has come up with a plan, and I am following the plan. Now, when it comes to choosing curriculum in a big family, I definitely need things that are easy for me to wrap my head around. And sometimes when you switch back and forth between tons of different curriculums, just for me to know how I'm supposed to use it can take a lot of work. So I've specifically chosen and found things that I can open up. I'm familiar with how they teach the lesson. It's not super intensive. And so if I do need to use different things with each child, I'm able to do that without too much extra work on my end. So I talked a little bit in my first video about homeschooling, how choosing a philosophy has really helped me in narrowing down curriculum, because that can just be overwhelming to get a catalog of all the different things to choose from and wonder, what should I use, what should I not use? So I relied heavily on what the people who had been homeschooling using the philosophy that I follow had recommended over many years. So choosing a philosophy to follow in my homeschool has been very helpful in narrowing down what I want to try. Curriculum can be so expensive, and it's really not good for kids, especially with reading and math and things that go at different paces and scopes and sequences, to switch a lot of curriculums. So that's where I think listening to people who've gone before you, who have similar personalities and setups as you, can be really helpful. So obviously I have chosen to approach homeschooling from a Charlotte Mason philosophy. I talked about that a lot in my first video. And specifically, I chose to follow a program called Ambleside Online for the majority of my curriculum. So Ambleside Online was founded by a group of mothers who really studied Charlotte Mason's philosophy at a time when not many people were doing things in a Charlotte Mason way. It wasn't very well known. It was not a buzzword. And so I would definitely consider them experts on her philosophy. And I have loved getting to take the work that they have done, that they offer for completely free, and use it for most of the subjects in our homeschool: history, science, literature, Bible, poetry, many different topics that I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's a completely free program, 12 years, 3 terms per year, so 36 weeks of scheduled readings, and then a book list of books that you get to follow along with that plan. Then from there, I was able to take the advice of other people who followed the Ambleside Online program to find things like math, a reading program, handwriting, and things like that to supplement those other core subjects with what I was doing with Ambleside. Okay, so getting started with Ambleside Online, you'll choose what year you're going to start your kid in, and they have a book list, and you'll purchase the books from that book list. You can buy a lot of them used. They even have a Facebook group where they're selling different books for different years. So there is an upfront expense for each year that you're going to start. But the cool thing is that you can use them again for each child that comes behind them. And the girls actually really love hearing their younger sisters' readings and being like, oh, I remember when I read that book. And they often sit in and listen to the readings again. And so that's kind of a fun tradition. It makes the little girls feel really special to be doing books that the older girls did. And then I have those books for them. I don't necessarily have to rebuy them every year, just the year that my oldest daughter is entering into. So these books would be considered living books, which I talked about in my last video, but books that bring the subjects to life. They're written by experts on these books. So I, as the mom, don't have to be an expert in science. I don't have to be an expert in literature or history. I'm taking my girls directly to sources who are, but who also had a passion for what they were teaching, and then they taught it in a way that brings the subject to life. So I can't even imagine beginning to try and find books on all the subjects that the Ambleside Online program covers, and vetting them and making sure that they fit, and then taking into account a whole 12-year schedule and filling in all the gaps that a kid would need. But these moms did that. I would definitely consider them experts in a Charlotte Mason philosophy. They don't make any money off of it. They offer it for free. And so it's just a huge resource, and it's comforting to know that because they offer it for free, they're not trying to get you to buy into something. They're not going to kind of cloak what the education is really about. It's just upfront. It's available to anyone who wants to pursue this education. Now, I would say that the Ambleside program is probably not going to work unless you are going to embrace a Charlotte Mason approach. So the two go hand in hand. I don't think you could use Ambleside and still expect to give traditional tests instead of narration. If you're going to be super strict on narrations. I don't think it's going to work. You really have to buy into the philosophy that I talked about in my last video, or that you can read about. A really good book to start off with that I started off with in my journey is called For the Children's Sake. And it kind of gives an overview of a Charlotte Mason philosophy. And that's really the only thing besides other articles and stuff that I've read. I haven't read her full 6 volumes. That is definitely on my goals list. But like I said in my last video, it's been really good for me to just take little bite-sized nuggets and ideas about the education and put them into practice in real life. So 2 criticisms that I have heard or imagine I would hear about Ambleside Online is the first one, that it is very labor intensive in the early years on the parents' part. And that is true. It is pretty much you reading aloud to your child and working with your child every day instead of maybe sitting them in front of a DVD or an online class or having them work through a workbook. And the work doesn't take very long when you do it. Now in our family, I feel like I work on it all day with different kids. Like they're not in school all day, but I am doing school with somebody all day just because there's so many of them and the toddler. But the actual work, especially in the early years, doesn't take a long time. And then as they get older, once they reach about middle school, they are pretty much completely independent. So my daughter, who's in 9th grade, I still do some things like dictation, I grade her math tests, but for the rest of it, she is completely on her own. She writes down her narrations so I can read them. And so it is so cool to see that the work we put in when she was younger and the time I gave her to really wrestle with some of these difficult texts and books, she has come through and is able to do a lot of this on her own, which I think is total preparation for the upper years of high school and college. I did find some ways to help myself with Ambleside and making it work for all the girls. It's really hard for me to imagine letting go of Ambleside after I've experienced it because it's just so rich. I love the books that I've chosen. I've learned so much as I've read with them. And I have come up with some ways to make it work in a big family. And I'll probably share some of those when I talk about maybe a day in our life, or I don't know, I'll share those in another time. But that would be one criticism I've heard of Ambleside. And the other one would maybe be that the levels, the 12 levels, are hard for the grade they maybe correspond with. And that is true. And it was true for us because I brought my girls out of private school where maybe they weren't being challenged as much academically as the Ambleside Online program would challenge them. And there are ways to still work with it. I don't think it's worth throwing out the whole program just because your 4th grader is struggling with the year 4 books. Personally, I would rather my girls step back a few years in the Ambleside program and graduate in like a year 10, which is still reading upper level high school books. They will still be completely prepared for college, instead of making them first feel like they don't know anything, or making them feel frustrated or just giving up entirely. Now, there is a part to a Charlotte Mason education where you want your child to grapple with texts and books and words that are a little bit above where they're at, where it is a challenge, and they do have to work at it and have some grit, not so much that they're discouraged or feel like they can't do it, but just enough where they really have to listen, they have to work hard, the readings are short, and they progress in hardness as you go on in years. And so there's been ways that I've made it so that my child can achieve it with hard work. And then there's times where I've backed a child up a year or taken 2 years to do a year of Ambleside if I can tell that they need that. So that's totally an option. Graduating in year 9 or 10 or 11 of Ambleside Online is still going to be an amazing high school education for your child. Okay, so that's how we do Ambleside Online. And I thought in a video, like a day in the life of our homeschool, I can show you specifically how we do it, what the schedule looks like, what my girls' narrations look like, and all of that. But I'll go on to the rest of our curriculum now. So for reading, I have always used All About Reading. So my friend, who was kind of my beginning mentor in a Charlotte Mason education, was a speech language pathologist, and she was the one who recommended All About Reading and the Orton-Gillingham approach in reading to me. And the comforting thing is, even when I had some suspicions about one of my daughters who was recently diagnosed with dyslexia just last year, I knew that even if she did have dyslexia, this approach, the Orton-Gillingham approach and All About Reading, was exactly the program that tutors would use in working with her in dyslexia. So that was a huge comfort to me and all of my girls, wondering, when they're little, if they have any learning difficulties and having an ADHD diagnosis and then also having a dyslexia diagnosis, that All About Reading was going to meet them and teach them reading in a way that was going to click with them. So I highly recommend it. It is a little bit more labor intensive than some curriculums, and my friend and I, she uses it with her children to joke about how much we hate cutting out all the different things. And there are ways to like save years and the things you cut out for future kids. I didn't do that because I just was fine with purchasing another student workbook and recutting everything out. That can be a little annoying, but it's worth it to me to have the really great reading education. I have typically used All About Reading about through level 3, and then I find that my girls are at a place with reading where I can just pick some really great novels that they read from to me for a certain amount of time, and I can help them with pronunciation, and that's worked. Along with All About Reading, when they finish level 1 of All About Reading, I will start All About Spelling with them. And this, I don't remember where I read it or where I heard it, but you're not actually supposed to start level 1 with level 1 of All About Reading. It's supposed to be a little bit behind that. So this is where they'll learn the spelling rules behind the words that they already know how to read. And when we were in private school, I experienced where they were trying to teach spelling words that were on level with the words they were reading, and it was really difficult. I don't know what approach that is, but through All About Reading and All About Spelling, I've discovered that it's better, at least for my girls, for their spelling rules and practice to be a little behind the words they're learning to read. Math is a huge choice as a homeschooling parent, and for me, that was one of those subjects that I really struggled with in school. I never felt good at math, and so I definitely wanted to find math instruction that was going to fill all of those holes that I had in my own education. And so I definitely went to the Facebook group for Ambleside Online, and I learned from a lot of the women there different choices. And one thing that I'd heard recommended was called Beast Academy. And the name itself and even the graphics are not what you would normally associate with like a really beautiful aesthetic homeschool. But I decided to do that for my daughter with ADHD, who I actually pulled out in the middle of her school year after Christmas break. I was like, we're done. We're not doing private school anymore. And so I homeschooled her for 1 semester before I brought everybody else home. And I thought, I didn't have much time to choose stuff. I was like, I'll just do Beast Academy for now. It's online. That will be fun for her. And then I'll reassess and find something to do with all the girls. Well, we ended up loving it so much that I put all 4 of my girls into Beast Academy at different levels when they came home. So as a homeschooling mom of a lot of kids, having math online with a video was so helpful to me because there may be times where they did need my help, but for the most part, they could be totally independent with math. And then what I love about the online program is it doesn't let them get away with misunderstanding how to do the problems. So they watch a very short lesson, and he just gives you some little ideas in your problem solving and a little tip in math, and then they start the problems. And the first few problems will be very basic, like what he discussed in the lesson. And then the next problems will be more challenging, where you have to use aspects of what he taught you and figure out how it works in these problems. And I am super glad that they only let you get the problem wrong twice. Before it's just kind of a missed problem. And then if you miss a few, they kind of shut down the lesson and say, let's try this again tomorrow. Because I could totally see myself if my girls were doing a workbook, they would watch the lesson, they would do the workbook, they may get all the problems wrong because they don't really understand what the lesson was about. And I wouldn't catch that until that night or the next day when I grade that homework. So I love that it's online. I love that it gives instant feedback to the girls. With them, I usually tell them if they get a problem wrong twice, one problem wrong twice, to call me. I'll watch the lesson with them. I will help them figure out what they're missing and go on from there. It keeps track of all the time they spend on their lessons. It keeps track of their grades. It has been a huge help to me. Now, Beast Academy is technically a program for gifted and talented elementary and middle school students. And I wouldn't say that my girls are necessarily gifted and talented. Like, it provides kind of an extra challenge to kids who are not being challenged in their grade level math. But it was so accessible by the teacher and how he taught it and how it progressed that my girls were able to be successful in it. And the levels don't necessarily correspond to grade levels. So there's 5 levels of Beast Academy. And at the end of level 5, your child would be ready for algebra. So my oldest daughter went through about halfway through level 5, and then she jumped right into algebra after that. So some kids use it and they finish it in elementary school. And then move on to pre-algebra when, they're still in elementary or middle school. And that's fine if you have a kid who's really math focused, but it did work for my girls that were not necessarily super mathy. And it's actually really helped me re-understanding math and how it's taught. So there's not grades on the levels. You get 3 stars if you just had complete mastery. This is more for the parent. Like, this is if your kid got like the really hard, challenging aspects of the problems. They get 3 stars, 2 stars, and 1 star. 1 star means that they know enough to go on to the next lesson. They maybe didn't get the challenging problems, but that's okay. Like, they got the basics of what they need. And then there is no 0 stars. It would just be a let's restart this tomorrow after you talk to your parent kind of thing. So I liked that there weren't necessarily grades, but I understood. I did have to explain to my girls. They used to see like a 1 star as like a failure, but I explained like, no, 1 star is still passing. Just 3 stars means you got all the problems right, even those really challenging problems. So I think Beast Academy works amazingly in a Charlotte Mason approach to homeschool because he gives these truths about whatever problem you're going to be solving, but he does not spoon feed to the children exactly how to use those truths, especially in the ending problems of each lesson. They really have to take the ideas that he shared with them and figure out how it would work out in this problem they've been given. And so I also love the short lessons. The lessons are about 5 minutes or less each day. And so for me, it fit really well in with the philosophy. You may not think that looking at it, a bunch of little monsters and beasts in a school. There are little comics that go along with it that explain some of the ideas too, if your kids are into that. And I've been really happy with that. Highly recommend it. Now, when my oldest daughter entered into high school, she needed to start algebra. And I kind of looked for advice from people who were in Ambleside, but also had done Beast Academy. And I settled on Denison Algebra for her, and this has been a huge help to her. It is written for kids who may be a little bit math hesitant. They're not in love with math, and they kind of just want the basics so that they can, use it how they need to. And that has been this for her. Her confidence level in math has gone way up. I will definitely use this for her all throughout high school. And if I had daughters who were more interested in some higher math, maybe the art of problem solving, which is Beast Academy's next level. But that's for kids who really want to really dig into math. And my oldest daughter did not. I probably would not either at her age. So Denison has been a great choice for that. Now, Beast Academy, when you start it, the kids have to be familiar with numbers 1 through 20 and really be able to play with those numbers. So I usually start Beast Academy in 1st grade. And before that, I use just a regular a different math curriculum to do with my kindergartners. And so I just started this year Math with Confidence, which was recommended in some of the Ambleside groups, and have also loved that. I've been doing that with my kindergartner. And then my daughter that was diagnosed with dyslexia, I actually switched her to that off of Beast Academy because I wasn't sure if doing math on the screen was really what was best for her. So I'm experimenting with Math with Confidence, but I love it. Highly recommend, especially if you want more of a textbook style, but that isn't heavy or dry. Another thing that's not covered by the Ambleside schedule, and they say that you have to choose your own, is some spelling, grammar, and dictation. Now, in a Charlotte Mason education, having a curriculum for that is totally not necessary. She taught spelling by having the children study passages from the books they were reading. So you would tell the child, okay, study page 16 of Robinson Crusoe, and note any words you don't know how to spell, practice spelling them. And then the teacher would pick a few sentences from that page to dictate, and the child would write them out. And then whatever they made a mistake on, the teacher would immediately correct and have them write correctly. So a curriculum is absolutely not necessary. And then you can teach the grammar rules from that. But because I had so many kids, I was just worried about staying on track with dictation. And so I did invest in a curriculum to help me with my 3 older girls. So this would be after you're all done with All About Reading and All About Spelling. I did not do All About Spelling through all the levels, but I have used the dictation program from Simply Charlotte Mason, and they changed it this year. It's called Using Language Well. And I got all of the levels my girls were in this new program. And I really like it. It provides you with your dictation passages and a student book, and then it also teaches grammar points. And I've just liked that little help to make sure I'm covering grammar. The main way that children learn good grammar in a Charlotte Mason education is by hearing good grammar. So when you're reading living books, reading these great works of art, you are learning grammar. And I've totally seen that happen in my own life. And so I trust that process. And this is just another way to practice spelling, practice studying. I recommend this, but it is not needed if you feel like you can handle dictation on your own, just the Charlotte Mason way. I think when I talk more about Ambleside and how it looks in our homeschool, I will share how I came to really trust the process of spelling in this way, as opposed to having the traditional spelling list. And that was through finding an old journal of mine and some discoveries I made about my own spelling back when I was a child. So I'll talk about that later. Another thing that's not covered by Ambleside is handwriting. So I use handwriting when my girls are little to learn both print and cursive. and I have been very happy with Handwriting Without Tears. Now, this will also cover a lot of like grammar and composition, and I don't use those pages. I just skip those because I'm doing that in other areas. So I strictly use this for the handwriting practice. And then with Marnie, my kindergartner, I actually tried out the Simply Charlotte Mason Capitals curriculum. So I will let you know how I feel about this after I use it. But after probably 3rd or 4th grade, when their cursive is really strong, I will just have them do a little bit of copy work every day in a lined journal to practice their cursive. So I will have them pick a beautiful sentence or two from the novel my older girls are reading or their poetry and write that out. So then at the end, they have a little quote book of some things that they thought were beautiful and what they read, and then they practice their handwriting that way. Poetry is a part of a Charlotte Mason education, just reading beautiful poetry. So I use these books that were put together by the Ambleside Online community. Each year has its own poets that they study, and my girls will just read one of these a day. They do not have to be narrated to me. They're just for them to be exposed to beautiful writing. Or in the younger years, I will read aloud from these to them. Other than that, we use a few other things. We use a program called Touch Type Read Spell. It's online. I wanted my girls to have typing practice. It also covers spelling, which I'm like, can't hurt to have a little more practice with that. And then for geography, we use a website called Cetera, and it's kind of a map drill, and I just have them start with different states. I think Cetera will start with like states of the Southeast, states of the Northeast, and then get to where you're doing all the states, and then you can move on to capitals, you can move on to different countries. My girls have really loved doing that, and they definitely know geography better than I did when I was their age. So that's our curriculum choices, and I've been really happy with how they've turned out. I haven't really switched much around. Sometimes I'll try something new just because it's popular with the group that I kind of follow. But for the most part, what I've started out with has been great. Now, I don't want you to watch this video and think that I have it all together and I'm this super mom, because most days of homeschooling are very hard. It's hard for me to get the basics done. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. And so in all honesty, I want to now show you some parts of a Charlotte Mason education that I am failing at. Okay, and there have been seasons where maybe I was better at these things, or there have been seasons where I just have never gotten around to this, but that are goals and I would like to add on into our homeschooling year. But I also know as long as we're covering the basics and I'm having an environment of learning where I'm teaching my kids to be curious and ask questions and find answers and read good books, then I'm doing my job. But these are some areas that I would like to add in the future years. So I blame part of my failing at these areas on that I jumped into school with 4 girls at once. So I tried to get everything done, but some things have fallen by the wayside. And I have battled feeling guilty about that. But I've also seen that if I'm just so stressed about what I'm not getting done, that is counterproductive to educating my children. Then they're feeling stressed. They're feeling like they're not doing a good job. And in the end, these things are great, but they're not necessary. They're good things that I want to include, but it's going to be okay if some years we don't get it done. I have to remind myself of those truths when I feel like a failure at certain things. The first thing that I should be doing that I'm having a hard time with is nature study. So nature study is a huge part of science and in a Charlotte Mason education. And I know in principle it's very easy. So the point of nature study would be Ambleside Online offers like a 12-year rotation. You just pick what all the other Ambleside families are doing, and it can be cool to form like a co-op in some of these areas. But there's certain things that you'll study, and then as a parent, you would like read from this book about that area of study and have that information in your mind. And then you would go outside with your kids, and as they ask questions, you have some answers in your mind. And you can also look up answers with your kids. But the point is not to make your kids read through this. This is for you so that you can be informed as your kids are discovering and asking questions. You might have a few answers for them or be able to guide them to finding the answers. Also, nature journaling is a huge thing that I really want to do with my girls. We have in the past worked through some of John Muir Law's nature journaling videos. My girls love those. I want to get back into that. It can be hard sometimes to gather everybody in the afternoons when the toddler is napping, and I feel like I have a million other things to do. But wanting to add that in this new year, this past year we moved to our new house and have been trying to get settled. So we've been kind of doing the bare bones of homeschooling, and that's okay for a season. But these are things that I would love to add in the future. Some other aspects of a Charlotte Mason education that I have done better with in the past that I'm not doing very good with now are Shakespeare, Plutarch, and Latin. So in the past, we have covered Latin twice a week with girls that are middle school and above, and then Plutarch and Shakespeare once a week. So I would usually tag like Shakespeare and Latin one day, and then Plutarch and Latin another day. And my husband actually also helped me a lot with these. Sometimes in the evenings, he would do this with my older girls, but we've kind of gotten out of that habit and do need to add that back in. For Shakespeare, we've just gotten everybody a copy of a play, and they read through it together. They decide which characters they're going to be at the reading, and they have fun acting it out. And then there's a modern translation on the other side if they don't understand a word or a phrase can help, but they do read the original Shakespeare using these. For Plutarch, I use these guides by Anne White. We started with Publicula, and then have moved on to her volume 1. And these would kind of be under like a citizenship/history covering. So not necessary, but so good to cover. And then for Latin, I've used a couple different curriculums. Right now we're using Visual Latin, and this does have a little lesson and then a workbook that the girls go through. And Josh has tried to oversee that. He has learned Hebrew and Greek in school. And so I was like, you're the Latin person. But we've had a hard time getting back into this year. And I kind of count this as our foreign language for now, and then also Latin. Super cool to be able to understand the roots of the English language. Very helpful in grammar and spelling. I would say with this program, it is more grammar heavy than my girls are used to with what we do with grammar. So a lot of the points they cover in here, what I would consider to be more formal high school grammar. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge for my girls, but they've managed and they're getting the points of it. And they have a lot of fun insulting each other in Latin. Another thing that is a part of a Charlotte Mason education is studying artists and their art, and studying composers and their works of music. And these are so easy to do. Again, I just have a hard time gathering everybody to do them, but ideally, these are fun to do in an afternoon snack/tea time. And you can rotate each day what you do. And I've done that in the past, but have not gotten around to that new habit here in our new house. But for artist study, you just are picking an artist. Ambleside has a rotation again that everybody that's doing Ambleside that year can study together, those artists. You can print a lot of the art because it's in the public domain, or you can find someone who has them kind of already in a file to be printed. And then you just allow the children to observe the art, to notice things about it, to talk about it. You would be, like the nature study, informed of some details about the artist and the art, so that you can just share little nuggets of truth as they're observing. But the point is not to have a formal art lesson necessarily, but just for them to interact with it and to notice things and to be curious about it. Same with music. You'd be assigned a composer for a term, and Ambleside actually lists different works of theirs that you can study weekly. And so you could have this playing while you're eating dinner one night, or while you're doing this tea time, listening to the music, noticing it, noticing things about the music. Very informal, but so good for their brains. In general, an afternoon tea time is great to cover those two things, also to cover some type of drawing or art lesson. Sometimes I've read aloud from a novel during that time, but that can be a fun tradition to start with your kids, and one that I want to get back into. Another thing that has been fun to do with my little girls is to use kind of a morning time to cover some of the things that Ambleside has you cover as a family, which are things like Bible memory, poetry, reading and memory, recitation, folk song, a hymn of the month, and doing that with your kids. Now, this works better with the little kids. I sometimes put off doing it because I can't get all 6 kids together at one time. And this coming year, I pretty much just need to content myself with maybe getting my little girls together consistently to do that. I think the older girls, if they're looking for something to do besides school, they'll probably join us, but not being so strict about requiring them to be there for that. And that's been really fun. That was something I was faithful with when we first started homeschooling, when I did my daughter's first grade year and had the 3 little ones. And those girls still remember some of the poems and songs that we did together during that time. So love that. Love that they are getting the education through some of the folk music and the traditional hymns. And then memorizing poetry and other beautiful things to recite. When I first started homeschooling, especially with Ambleside, I definitely felt like I had to do all the things to be successful. I'm a rule follower. I love to follow a method. You've probably gathered that from my other videos. And so I felt like I was failing if I couldn't make it all work. But the more I homeschooled, the more I saw that it was not checking off a bunch of boxes. It was actually creating an environment where as a family, we are curious, we want to learn, we learn to listen, we learn to observe, and we are surrounded by really beautiful writing, music, and art. I don't feel as a homeschool mom that I have to know everything that my child needs to know to graduate. That is the beauty of introducing them to living books that are going to cover those things, that are going to spark their imagination. They're really going to connect with things that I maybe wouldn't connect with if I read that. And that's what I love about not being the source of knowledge for all of my kids. I often think about how much I learned as a young adult in college and then in my adult life. And that comforts me because I know like my girls are going to get lots of ideas. They're going to get lots of knowledge in school, but there is so much more learning that's going to take place if I will just lay a really great foundation for them. And what I love about the Charlotte Mason approach and finding information in living books is if I teach my girls to love reading and love finding information in books, then the entire world is open to them. Okay, so that's a summary of our curriculum. In the next video, I am going to dive into what it actually looks like in a day in the life, and I'm going to be honest. So I will plan what day it's going to be. I hope it's a good day, but if not, I want to show you what it really looks like homeschooling with 6 kids, 5 of them in school, using Ambleside Online and a Charlotte Mason approach. Thanks for watching.